You would have seen last week, while the president was in Joburg announcing his presidential task team for the city, he said the Expropriation Act could now be used to help reclaim hijacked buildings. One of the conditions under which land or property can be expropriated without compensation under the Act is if it's been abandoned by its owners. In the case of Joburg, it's understood buildings that have people living in them have actually been abandoned. Sometimes their owners can't even be traced. Refilwe Monageng is the CEO of the Black Entrepreneurs Alliance. Joins us now. Refilwe, good morning to you, and thanks very much indeed for your time. I understand your members want Joburg to work. You want everything to sort of work properly, may have a law-abiding environment, much safer. There'll be a lot more business done. Obviously, hijacked buildings are a major problem. Do you think the Act can be used? Do you think government is going to actually do something?
Thank you, Stephen, and to your viewers. We believe that government can do something. However, there's also a law that prohibits that, which is PIA, the Prevention of Illegal Eviction Act. And a lot of times, I know that you've written long time ago about it and you lambasted it, but that act is the one that's a problem, because then buildings can be expropriated, meaning taken by the government, but you cannot evict illegal or the current occupiers. And that's a challenge, because then as business, after I've had discussions with some of investors and entrepreneurs, a lot of people said, we love this, but it cannot be done. Now, a case in point is that there's a lady, Mam Tobile, who owns a building in Marlborough, in 62nd Street. And it has illegal occupants. And for the last exactly 7 years, she has been trying to evict them in order to, and you think about this, to turn it into a skills development center. And I was speaking to her in order to ensure that when you have artisans, plumbers, builders, that can also assist in contributing to revamp the city. Now, she's being blocked in terms of doing that, and it doesn't make sense, and she's one of our members. So it's those some challenges that we're coming across.
This is the kind of thing where everybody says, and the president said last week, we're going to make a difference in Joburg. Do you believe them?
I believe him. Look, the president, the intentions are good, and it's the step in the right direction. Firstly, by the president to have courage to ensure that he executes the expropriation bill, it's good. However, it needs to be superimposed with the PIA Act. When you do that, and even some regulations within PIA need to be amended in order to ensure that this is effected. Because when we re-looked at what the president has said, it's going to take longer than it's intended. Firstly, the city of Joburg needs to do an intrinsic audit of hijacked buildings, properties and houses. Do you know that the city of Joburg also owns houses in Randbeck, in Rosettenville, in Sandton, in Bryanston, that have been hijacked, and interestingly, by illegal foreigners. Now, these people are not paying rates and taxes, are not paying tax. So as businesses, we're saying we would like to move in, invest in those businesses, even if it means we could get 99-year lease arrangements with government, revamp them at our own cost, and ensure that you can make them livable, habitable for South African citizens.
There's so much work that needs to be done here, because what happens in these buildings also is that you get a lot of crime. We saw in the Usundiso building, the building that burnt down, the person who gave testimony to the commission, he said he started the fire. He did it because he was killing a person who was involved in the drugs trade. There clearly are drugs coming out of these buildings.
Absolutely. You see, by the president saying that, he's now also sending a clear message that the government wants to rid of crime. Now, also, if you look at the PIA Act and the expropriation bill, it also needs the police to have timeless response in terms of if you need to raid a building, what is the alternative? Because the PIA Act also says if you remove them, you must give them alternative accommodation. So you see now who's going to pay for alternative accommodation. So it's those unintended economic consequences that we need to think of as business. We also want to assist in terms of coming up with solutions, because we know that there's a Johannesburg Development Agency. They're happy to also come on board. We know that the city of Joburg has also done sterling work with Flare-Off. So they also want to get into the business of rentals, ensuring that you move away from RDPs, but you get into the rental space and ensure that by expropriating these properties, you make them livable and you make it easy for people not to work far from the city. The reason why the Group Areas Act and people were moved away from the city to Soweto and now to Orange Farm, it was precisely because of this. So the president and the government are trying to reverse this. Now, is it feasible timelessly for the G20? I don't know, but it's a step it's a good step in the right direction.
It's not just about hijacked buildings. It's also about potholes. I mean, there's some parts of the Joburg inner city where it seems there's almost no road left. I mean, how big a problem is that? You can't move things around. It's dangerous. It looks bad. I mean, I think it just gives, no one's going to invest in an area where there's no road.
Well, I don't want to speak about Joburg, the CBD itself, but you look at Eldorado Park, you look at Alexander, you look at Soweto, there's also alternatives of rubberized roads using polymer. We've been saying to government, why don't we use polymer? Because when you use rubberized polymer for closing potholes, even if it rains, you don't have to come back and reclose, but then it's a sustainable way of closing potholes. It's green, and it also ensures that when people who are visiting the city can appreciate, and then we can reclaim the African, world-class African city that we speak about.
The Presidential Working Group, and I might have missed it, but I'm not sure I know at this stage who's actually on it. Would it be, and it'll be politicians.
Would love to join.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, should business be a part of it? Should people from business?
Of course. I'll tell you why. In order to move South Africa forward, you need government, you need business and social partners so that you listen to everyone. If you read Kulumbata's book, Why the ANC Failed to Govern, it's very interesting. It failed because they failed to listen. And by bringing social partners and business together, like at NEDLEC, it's a right model to use to ensure that government can move forward. Because if you look at it, Stephen, South Africans really want to work together out of racism and rid away crime, poverty, and all the social ills we have. So I believe if we come together as South Africans, including business, that's why we are raising our hands as Black Entrepreneurs Alliance to say, please make a seat for us. We'd like to participate.
I mean, okay, I don't know. So business, sometimes business groups are seen as very popular. People like business because business gets things done. We've seen that after the pandemic. People also don't like business because they'll say, you just want to make a profit. We shouldn't trust you. You shouldn't be part of it. Do you think you have to almost prove yourself? I mean, it's slightly unfair in a way because business is the one thing in Joburg that does work.
I don't have to prove myself, especially I'll borrow from the Bible. Ecclesiastes 10 verse 19 says a feast is made for laughter, wine makes merry, and says, but money, it's a conjunction. But money is the answer of all things. So it doesn't say prayer, it doesn't say fellowship, it doesn't say socialization. It says, but money is the answer of all things. So money makes the world go round. You need to pay electricity, you need to pay wages, you need to survive. So inadvertently, even if you don't like business, but business makes things happen because of a simple principle and a means of exchange called money. So let's make money and let's share it equitably. That's why as Black Entrepreneurs Alliance, we believe in reviving, revamping the city. Let's aggregate those tender opportunities and have inclusive growth. And ensure that if you rebuild a place like Eldorado Park, include people from Eldorado Park to rebuild their own town. And then if they are involved, they are happy and they will never destroy those properties.
I mean, Joburg matters, right? And we've seen middle classes, if they can, been moving to Cape Town. Look at the difference. Look at what Cape Town suburban housing prices have done over the last 10 years. And Joburg's housing prices, you're losing money actually in Joburg, which should never happen. How different would South Africa be if Joburg worked? I mean, what would it look like?
Well, maybe you're making me have been nostalgic in a sense that remember Joburg when it was thriving, when it was Christmas, when you go down Commissioner Street, there was those Christmas lights and stuff. Think about it in that fashion, where Christmas was Christmas. Think about a person in Soweto. If Joburg works, people are eager to share. People are eager. I remember my grandmother in Orlando West in Soweto. She was very, very extremely keen to pay her rates and taxes timelessly. But nowadays, the fact that Joburg is not working, you think people don't pay, there's crime. It's because of a lack of jobs, if there are jobs. I mean, during apartheid, there was something called loafer's cap. So if you ensure that people are intrinsically employed, especially through learnerships, I mean, you look at SETAs, money that the SETAs have, it's a lot. And we're saying that there's an organization called VEP. They specialize in training. They got all the accreditation. And it's about training and plugging people back. So this project of reviving Johannesburg, we're saying the artisans, your plumbers, electricians and stuff, let's use them through monies from the SETAs, revive Johannesburg and ensure that it becomes a world-class African city.
Refilwe, Monageng, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Good.